Yes, Christina Hill. Here. Clay Thomas. Here. Don Christensen. Here. Hold on. Can everybody check their mics are on? Thank you. Rob Pierce.
Here.
Brad Stanley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Brad, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'd be honored.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Large, could you read the ethics law announcement, please?
Thank you. Board members are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the board today, you've received a gift or a loan, you have a pecuniary interest, you have a commitment in a private capacity such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or you provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered, you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Board members are also reminded that under the Board of Adjustment rules, if you had a contact outside this meeting with any person interested in a matter coming before the board today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lloyd, could you read the appeal procedure?
Certainly. Most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Board of Adjustment and you qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment at this time?
I have no public comment.
Okay. The next item is approval of the June 2nd agenda. That's today. No, that was June 2nd. Yeah, that's today. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Rob. We have 3 cases where we might be able to just approve them if there's no public comment, so.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna
Later?
kind of skip the presentation and just
Okay.
go to the vote on it.
Then I move that
Because
we,
we will hear these every year, and they're the same community events, so. Yes, good point, but
so I'll move that we approve the agenda.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
And I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, that would be item 8C, item 8D, and item 8E, that you wish to have no presentation for those items, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now approval of the May 5th, 2022 draft minutes. So everybody get a chance to review those? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Mr. Stanley, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the first public hearing item is administrative permit case WADMAN 22-0007, Keefe Care of the Infirm. Katie Stark.
Good afternoon, Katie Stark, Washoe County Planning. The case before you is WADMIN 22-0007, Keefe Care of the Infirm. The parcel is located in the southeast Truckee Meadow area, west of Toll Road. The request is for an administrative permit to allow a recreational vehicle to be occupied by a caretaker on parcel 017-161-11 to be used for the care of an infirm resident. The caretaker will live in the RV and the infirm resident lives in the home. In this image, you can see in the light green the location of the primary residence, and then in yellow the location of the RV. A self-contained travel trailer is allowed to be used for the care of an infirm resident with an approved administrative permit per Washoe County Code Section 110.310.35G. This temporary occupancy is reserved for properties that have a permanent single-family dwelling and either the infirm person or the caretaker can live in that home. A signed affidavit is required from a Nevada licensed physician stating that the individual does need on-site care and the administrative permit needs to be renewed annually. The infirm resident's medical practitioner for this permit did complete a signed and notarized affidavit stating that the infirm individual does need care and assistance. And that affidavit is included in the application in Exhibit D. There's an open code enforcement violation on this property. The complaint was received by Washoe County Code Enforcement in January of 2022, stating that the property owner has multiple people living in RVs and that another RV had been added. Washoe County Code Enforcement did investigate the complaint and issued a violation of a code related to temporary camping. RVs are not permitted to be used for sleeping or as a dwelling for more than 14 consecutive days and not for more than 4 visits per year without something like this administrative permit that we're looking at today. The property owner is working with code enforcement to resolve the matter. The administrative permit that we're looking at today, if approved, will allow the one caretaker to live in an RV on the property to care for the infirm individual. Any remaining issues related to that code enforcement violation will be handled between the property owner and code enforcement. Washoe County Code does require that the travel trailer or RV is located on the parcel to provide as much screening as practical from street view. This parcel has a regulatory zone of medium density suburban with 20-foot front and rear setbacks and 8-foot side yard setbacks. The application's shown on their site plan that the trailer is located 5 feet from the rear property line. We'll look at images in a moment. And Washoe County Code Section 110.306.10 allows a structure to be 5 feet from rear and side property lines if it's 12 feet in height or less. Here's some images to give you a better idea. This is a corner property and with 2 front yards. So one of the front yards is along Toll Road, the other Bernard Circle. You can see that it ends in a cul-de-sac, and that yellow rectangle is the approximate location of the RV. This is old overhead imagery from a couple years ago in our mapping system. A couple of front yard images. The first is the view from Toll Road. The front yard along Bernard Circle is a longer yard, so the second 2 pictures are a couple images of that front yard. And then this is kind of at the end of the front yard and looking to the rear. You can see the location of the RV. It's 20 feet from the front property line, and the fencing in the area seems to be comparable neighbor and the applicant have similar fencing there. Washoe County Code also requires that there's no discharge of litter, sewage, effluent, or other matter except into sanitary facilities designed to dispose of the material. This property is currently served by Tumwa, an existing septic tank for sewage, and waste management for garbage. Washoe County Building, Washoe County Health District, and Washoe County Water Rights all reviewed the application and provided conditions which will ensure appropriate utility connections, septic hookups, and water for the RV. Various agencies did review the application. For any agencies who provided conditions, those conditions are included in Exhibit A in the staff report. Public notice was sent to 51 separate property owners within 500 feet of the applicant's property. Staff is able to make all 5 of the required findings. The staff is recommending approval of the administrative permit. And here's a possible motion for your consideration. I'm available for questions. The applicant did not want to make a presentation, but indicated that he would be watching on Zoom.
Thank you. Is the applicant, do we have any questions for the applicant or staff? Is that person available?
I am not seeing, I have Jacob Southard or Kevin. I'm not seeing anyone by that name on Zoom, but I do have someone with their hand raised, so I'm going to check and see just in case that's the applicant.
Jacob Southard is the applicant.
That's what I have, yes.
Yeah.
Someone signed in as Amanda. I'm going to allow you to speak. Are you here on behalf of the applicant? Are you Jacob?
No, I'm not.
Okay, then I will mute you until we come back around. Thank you.
Awesome.
I do not have the applicant.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Do we have any public comment?
I do have her hand raised via Zoom. So Amanda, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak if you could unmute and state your first and last name for the record.
Hello, I'm Amanda Kelling, and I do live in that general area. And the cops have been there numerous times on Jacob due to him being a schizophrenia. He has put dead animals in the neighbors' yards. And the other one that lives in the trailer is supposedly the caregiver, Kevin. And they have been living on that property in a trailer for over 5 years. And then they had another person move in a trailer. So technically there's 3 people living in trailers over there. And it is making children and other seniors living around that area very uncomfortable.
Did you have any other comments, Amanda?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. And if I could, what was your last name?
Kelling?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem.
I have no further hands raised via Zoom, and I do not have any comment in chambers for this item.
Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the,
I
yes?
actually have one
You have a question?
question for
Yes.
Katie, please.
Katie?
Just for the record, Katie, if you will, the lady who had the concerns earlier, those are being addressed by code enforcement, did you say?
Correct. There's still an open violation with code enforcement. The permit today would deal with Jacob being allowed to live in an RV as a caretaker.
Do we have any sense of time for the code enforcement issue? I know that's not something official and they'll need to do their investigation and that sort of thing, but do we have any sense of how that process works for the folks who are concerned about that?
I am not sure of the timing. I don't know all the details of their case. I interacted with them and looked over the code
Good
enforcement
plan.
case. But
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Clay Thomas. Katie, I got a quick question for you. Can you
Yes.
give me a definition of RV, since that's the way it's identified evidently in code? Or I believe I had asked originally Mr. Lloyd if he could at least clarify that point for me.
Yeah, if you, through the chair, if you would just give me one moment, I'll see if we have it in our code. I don't believe that it's listed, but I will double check here.
I guess as a point of maybe clarification for me is if an RV is allowed on site so the caretaker can live there, does that mean we could put up a pop-up trailer? And would that suit the definition of an RV? Or, you know, what is it? Does it have to be self-contained? You know, I don't know. I'm just asking for kind of some clarification on that.
I'm going to allow Secretary Lloyd to keep looking, but you know, it will need to meet the requirements, for example, of the health district and you know, with the appropriate septic hookups and the building with appropriate utility hookups. So, you know, there has to be some stability and structure there. So.
I just don't know at what level we're talking about. That's all.
Okay, the definition for a recreational vehicle is a vehicular structure that is primarily designed as temporary living quarters for travel, recreation, and camping uses. A recreational vehicle can be self-propelled, mounted on, or towed by a separate vehicle. So I don't know if that answers your question. It doesn't really talk about being self-contained.
Right,
Madam Chair, if I may, Michael Large from District Attorney's Office. The statute itself, or the ordinance itself, refers to both recreational vehicles and self-contained trailers pursuant to 810, was it, I'm sorry? 310.315 refers to both self-contained vehicles, or it's our recreational vehicles and self-contained trailer. So both of those are allowed under this administrative permit.
Thank you, Mr. Large, and Mr. Lloyd for clarifying that for me. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the staff or want to just discuss? There seems like everything's in order then if code enforcement is on it, which hopefully they are.
Madam Chair, I do have a question, but it's not for staff, so I'll wait till it comes back to the board for ask for clarification.
Okay, Mr. Christensen, do you have a?
Yes, for the record, Don Christensen. On page 7, the illustrations, it's pretty clear that this RV is not a pop-up trailer. It's pretty substantial. But I notice it has a slide out that appears to impinge on the 5-foot setback. Is there a plan to honor that 5-foot setback by moving that RV?
We could add a condition if you prefer to have a condition added.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I'm not willing to make a condition proposal at this time, but just note that since no one has complained about it being there, kind of a moot point.
Yeah. And, you know, that pop-out can go in and out, obviously, so. Mr. Stanley?
Madam Chair, and clarification again for Planner Stark. It, you know, just eyeballing this thing here, is the pop-out that's actually infringing on the 5 feet, right?
I didn't measure. I did take pictures, but didn't measure. That looks like it could be appropriate, but I wouldn't know without.
Let me ask it another way. What would be the difficulty of meeting the code of asking them to set, it looks like there's quite a lot of area there. Is there a problem or a hardship by meeting the 5-foot code with the pop-out, popped-out? In other words, 5 feet from pop-out to fence as per code? Is that an issue for anyone?
Nothing that I can think of. I haven't spoken to the applicant about it, but nothing I see from my end.
Madam Chair, if I could
Sure.
address this. Yeah, the question is whether or not this kind of a use must meet that 5-foot setback. It's not a permanent structure, so by code, it doesn't have to meet that 5-foot setback unless it were permanently fixed on the property. However, this board does have the authority to impose certain conditions. Certainly, the placement of this type of a use is within your purview. But I would ask the applicant, if they are here, if they would be willing to meet that, or if that would be a problem, so that you can determine whether or not that's an appropriate condition.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. My question really was whether or not we'd be meeting code. I think you've clarified that since this is a movable structure, it already meets code as it is. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Someone like to entertain a motion?
Madam Chair, before we get to the motion, I do have a question I'd like
Oh, okay.
clarified. Thank you. For the record, this is Clay Thomas. Mr. Large, this might go to you or to whoever could best answer it. I did notice that on Exhibit D, it does show the affidavit from the physician being signed. However, it's signed by a physician assistant, and according to the actual code, which is referenced 110.310, I believe, .35G, it says that it has to be signed, or the affidavit has to be signed by a Nevada licensed physician. Now, when I was reviewing the documentation, I also went to the NRS, which covers NRS roughly 630, which identifies what a physician is, what a physician assistant is, and what a supervising physician is. And it would appear that a physician assistant does not have the authority, according by at least the NRS definitions, to sign this document, and that the document should be or needs to be signed by an actual physician. Does that create a problem for this board to rule on this item at this time, since the paperwork does not seem to be in order, or is it in order? If you can help me out there, I'd appreciate it.
Michael Larch, for the record, from the District Attorney's Office. You're quite right in regard to the administrative code. What it states is the administrative permit application shall include a signed affidavit from a Nevada licensed physician identifying the need for on-premises care. Staff is granted a certain amount of discretion in regard to these on a temporary occupancy for care of the infirm. The intent and purpose of this provision is to allow for just that, infirm care, with the modifications in regard to our current access to physicians, physician's assistants, and registered nurses that are taking care of the infirmed. This staff has not identified this as, they've used their discretion to say that we will accept on behalf of a licensed physician assistant to meet this qualification. Obviously, if this board wants to hold them to the letter of the ordinance, they can. As we saw last month in regard to the rushing care for a firm, which I believe was administrative permit 22-0003, the physician assistant affidavit has been sufficient. Many times, people who are seeking these type of things have limited funds and limited access to health care. We're not going to stand in the way of what it might very well be, if staff's position is, we won't stand in the way of what would very well be a necessary thing. Perhaps a future ordinance might be modified to say a medical care provider, which would be a better statement of this, of the intent and purpose of this thing. Because many people don't have access to physicians on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are we open for discussion, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I guess my concern still is the letter of the law says it has to be signed by a physician, but I do agree with Mr. Large's comment that we should not be here to impede or impinge upon services that need to be rendered to an individual that needs it. I know there's an old expression I liked that says it's better to break the law than send an innocent man to jail. And given that, I am not opposed to voting in favor of this document, but I would also maybe, just to make sure that everything is clear or satisfied, maybe if we add a real quick condition that basically says that this is approved upon just the signature of a physician. And in today's environment, especially with technology, all it takes is a fax from the physician's office of the physician
Well,
assistant.
if the person has a fax. I don't have a fax.
No. The fax would be basically, we have this document, this affidavit, if we can have the document sent to here,
Oh,
that it's
to the
just,
county.
it's a county, so we have a record on file that we do have a physician that does meet the actual code requirement. I think we kind of keep everything going, and we don't delay this in any manner. All we're doing is asking for the physician to send us something via fax.
Well, the physician's assistant must have a physician associated with it, right?
There
Every
is a-
physician assistant has a physician.
Required by law that you have to have a supervising physician that
Yeah.
oversees a physician
Yeah,
assistant.
yeah.
That's what the NRS says.
I know all about them. Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Stanley,
Yeah.
is that good?
Well, it certainly opened the door, and, again, if this is true, that it's for a physician and a PA, what do we do about APRNs who do not require the oversight of an attending physician? And I think they can do anything but major surgery, as I recall. So they're actually substantially more trained than a PA, substantially more trained,
Yeah.
and can assess the situation or mobile. My daughter is one, and she has her own practice, for an example. Some people work for her, and she provides modest oversight, I think. I won't do an ad, but the Borg, the largest medical operation in the northern Nevada, is contracted with this particular practice. So what do we do about that? And I guess my point is, if I had a point, it would be these people are also recognized and have to be authorized by the state of Nevada and other boards as well. So where do we draw that line? Because if you've drawn it at a PA level, for an example, that's halfway down the chart roughly in terms of the authorizations medical authorizations that are made, as I understand it.
Well, I think Clay covered that with his adding a condition that a physician must provide the
Yeah,
county.
and my concern with that, I heard that, and the issue, I believe, is a pretty easy one, not to decide, but to understand, and that is, it's either by the law as written now, which is probably outdated in my humble opinion, or you use the discretion that DDA large allows us, and for which we have precedent, which says we can determine whether or not that's a competent professional. At some point, of course, that'll be rewritten to have what the competent and authorized professionals are. But the idea was to avoid the cost and the requirement to have a physician who are in short supply required for this. And that's why the PA was okay, as I understood it. That was the
Right.
rationale. If you ask them to send in a fax, I'll bet you will also get a bill,
You also get what?
an invoice.
Oh,
And it would be a great idea if the physician knew something about the client.
yeah.
So,
Ultimately, Madam Chair, this is Michael Larch, again for the record. Ultimately, these cases are going to come on a case-by-case basis, and you're going to have to assess the evidence that is before you in dealing with each one of these. In this case, we have a physician's assistant who is licensed that has said that this is appropriate. And it's up to this board's discretion on whether or not that is sufficient. And if not, then this board can vote it down. If it is, then the board can vote it up. In regard to a registered nurse, we're going to take that as it comes the next time.
Okay, sounds good. It's okay by me that it's physician's assistant.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Don Christensen for the record. You know, last month we heard an almost identical case in the Rushing healthcare matter. And we did not condition
Right.
that. And I think that sets a precedent for this board not to further condition this particular case before the board this afternoon. If we accepted that almost identical terms last time, let's be consistent. Just
Yes.
either approve it or disapprove it.
Right.
I certainly agree with that.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Well, okay. Madam Chair, this is Clay Thomas for the record, and I agree wholeheartedly with that, except I guess my stumbling block is what I've seen of 110, 310, 35, there isn't leeway there. It says it has to, the affidavit has to be signed by a Nevada licensed physician. That's all it says. It doesn't say that we, the Board of Adjustment, have discretionary power to go ahead and do that.
But Mr. Large said we did.
Mr. Large is, Mr. Large, do you want to jump in and clarify your point for us? Maybe you can help us out.
What I said was staff has interpreted this improvement. Mr. Thomas is quite right. The statute says what it's, or the ordinance says what it says in regard to having a licensed physician. The spirit and intent of this and the way staff has interpreted this is not to stand in the way of the medically infirm being allowed temporary uses. This board has discretion on whether or not to approve it or disapprove it. But Mr. Thomas is right. That is what the ordinance says. That is why staff's recommending approval with this, and didn't see the need to send the applicant back to have a physician.
Yes, Mr. Stanley?
A further question, and this can be handled at the end of the meeting, I'm assuming. So as action that we want to ask about later, but that would be the time, would it not be, where we would kind of point out or ask for some clarification on this at some other higher level, and that we would see what could be done, whether or not changing that statute requires, I guess it wouldn't be an act of full Congress, but you know, how difficult that would be. So my question is, we handle that at the end of the meeting, right? And then, yeah.
I don't know that we need to. It's put on the list. It's a priority. We will amend the code so that it is, in fact, consistent with the intent. And that is, it was never the intent to require a physician. It was the intent was to ensure that a medical professional is signing off. That's really it.
Okay, so we don't need to have that item because it's going to be attended to.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion. Someone wants to make one? Yes, Mr. Stanley?
I'll make this motion. I move that, after given reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Board of Adjustments approve administrative permit case number WADMIN 22-007 for Jacob Southard with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all the findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code 110.808.25, including consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and effect on military installation.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we need a second. Second?
This is Rob, for the record, I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is administrative permit case number WADMIN 22-0008, Medina Barn.
Katie Stark, Washoe County Planning. The project before you is WADMIN 22-0008, the Medina Barn. The parcel is located in the Spanish Springs area west of Pyramid Highway. The applicant's request is for an administrative permit to allow a detached accessory structure that's larger than the primary residence. The proposed detached barn is 5,224 square feet, and the primary residence is 2,282 square feet. The applicant is considering making the barn slightly smaller than that 5,224 square feet, but it would not be any larger. The property's regulatory zone is low-density rural. Detached accessory structures larger than the existing main structure are permitted within the LDR regulatory zone with the approval of an administrative permit. This is a site plan of the entire property, and you can see the proposed barn up in the northeast corner. This is just a close-up of the proposed barn. The parcel is 10.65 acres with a regulatory zone of LDR. Surrounding parcels are of a similar size and are also zoned LDR. The minimum building setbacks for LDR are 30 feet from front and rear yard property lines and 50 feet from side yard property lines. The proposed barn does meet those building setbacks, and the applicant is not proposing electricity or plumbing. During the review period for this permit, staff received a phone call from a neighboring property owner who had seen that dirt was being moved on the property, and they were concerned that the applicant might be working without a permit. A code enforcement officer did go out and visit the applicant's property and got back to staff and said that though some dirt had been moved, the activity did not exceed thresholds for Article 438, which is grading standards. Code enforcement did not issue a violation. He communicated with the applicant to let the applicant know that further grading, digging, movement of dirt prior to a barn permit being issued could trigger the limits of Article 438. The applicant and code enforcement officer discussed the applicant limiting any future dirt movement to road maintenance until appropriate permits are issued. Various agencies reviewed the application. Those who provided conditions have their conditions included in Exhibit A. Public notice was sent to 33 separate property owners within 1,500 feet of the applicant's property. Staff is able to make all 5 of the required findings. Staff is recommending approval, and there's a possible motion for your consideration. I'm available for questions. The applicant is present in chambers, is not interested in making a presentation, but is available if you have questions.
Thank you, Katie. Do we have any questions for the planner? No? Do we have any concerns or questions? It looks pretty straightforward. Would someone like to entertain a motion?
Did you want to open it up to public comment
Oh,
first?
is there any public comment?
I do not have any public comment for this item.
Okay. So bring it back to the board.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, sounds good.
For the record, this is Clay Thomas. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve administrative permit case number WADMIN 22-0008 for the Guadalupe Marina Medina, I'm sorry, with conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, that being consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effects on a military installation.
Do I have a second?
We have a second.
Mr. Stanley, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, these next 3 projects are community outdoor events, and they have been coming before the board for the last 30 years. And we hear them every year. And I was hoping that we could just avoid the whole staff presentation and see if there's any public comment and for any of these, you know, the pancake breakfast, the classical music concerts, or the fashion show for the League to Save Lake Tahoe. And hopefully just approve them. I guess we'll approve them all separately, but we don't have to have another presentation because we've had them before. We know what they are.
Madam Chairman, for the record, Michael Large, what I would recommend is that we open the hearing for administrative permit case number 22-0009, administrative permit case number 22-00010, and administrative permit 22. Open the hearing. These are public hearings. And then ask for any public comment on all of those. And then bring it back to the board to vote individually on each.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we will open the public hearing for WAD MIN 22-009, WAD MIN 22-0010, and WAD MIN 22-0012. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment?
I'm just giving it a moment. Any
Okay.
hands raised? I have no public comment for these items.
Does anybody in the chambers wish to comment on these items? No. Okay, so we're gonna now take action on each individual item individually. This is a little redundant. Okay, so do I have a motion for the pancake breakfast? Oh, yeah,
For the record, this is Clay Thomas. I'll make a motion on this.
okay.
This is for, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Board of Adjustment approve administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0009 for North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District with the conditions including Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, that being consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effect on a military installation.
And this is Rob, I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we will go to administrative permit case WAD-MIN 22-0010, Classical Tahoe. Someone like to make a motion for that one?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
for the record, this is Clay Thomas. I'll make a motion. I move that after giving reasoned consideration for the information contained in the staff report and information received in the public hearing, the Board of Adjustment approve administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0010 for Stephanie McCoy with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings according with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, that being consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and effects on a military installation.
And this is
Madam
Rob,
Chair.
for the
Yes?
record.
Mr.
Go ahead.
This is Brad Stanley for the record, and I second that motion.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the third one is the administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0012, League to Save Lake Tahoe. Fashion show, which is I used to be the applicant for that. I guess they got someone else, or did it themselves this time. Do I have a motion for that one?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Clay Thomas for the record, point of clarification, please. Mr. Large, this one here is 0012. The next one we're going to hear is 0011. So this technically was out of order. Did this need to be addressed on approval of the agenda, or does that matter?
The agenda listed it as item E. So it was E just because it was listed out of order, but I believe, honestly, I believe it was when the staff reports were actually turned in.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Do you have a motion for this one? Or,
This is Rob for the record. I move that after given a reasonable consideration of information contained in the staff report and information received in a public hearing, the Board of Adjustments approve administrative permit case number WADMIN 22-0012 for leak to save Lake Tahoe with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, consistency improvements, site suitability and issuance not detrimental.
great, do I have a second? Mr.
Don
Stan?
Christensen, for the record, I second the motion.
Oh, okay, Mr. Christensen, second.
Did you? Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you very much. Expediting those items. Okay, the next item is special use permit case number WSUP 22-0011 Dales Lane Sewer Lift Station.
Good afternoon. Chris Bronzik, Washoe County Planning. So we're looking at WSUP 22-11. This is the Dales Lane lift station. So this is located off of 4890 Callahan Ranch Trail at the junction of Dales Lane. The current parcel is 41.937 acres. However, the proposed site is only 5,244 square feet. So the request is for a special use permit for the approval of a sewer lift station, which is a utility services use type. The proposed lift station is intended to be owned, maintained, and was designed to Washoe County standards. All lift station mechanicals, all the components, et cetera, are located within a fenced area and are proposed to be underground. So this proposed lift station has a little bit of history to it. It was originally approved under the Terrasante subdivision map, which is TM 0604, and also was previously approved via building permit in 2006 under permit number 064525.
But it was never constructed?
It was never constructed.
Oh.
So the access to this lift station will be off of Dales Lane. It is intended to be unmanned. Due to this, it will create minimal traffic. As you can see with the site plan, the access is quite close to that Callahan Ranch Trail Road and Dales Lane. So this is intended to start serving a significant number of homes, specifically 264 units as part of that Terrasante development, as well as existing residences that are there. So the applicant did submit a request to modify standards, and those standards are specifically landscaping standards. And so the partial modification, if you look at the image above, that green indicates a proposed trail. The brown is the proposed site related to this sewer lift station, and the blue is where the landscaping requirements will need to be met. It should be noted that currently the request to modify standards was erroneously left out of the conditions of approval. Staff is recommending that we do include these conditions in the conditions of approval document. However, one condition related to the landscaping standards, we'd like to remove entirely and make sure that they adhere to it. And that would be 41240D, which is related, it's on page 6 of the staff report. And so this is screening adjoining residential uses, which require a solid decorative wall. So we would like to keep that in place. So notice was sent to 62 parcels within 1,000 feet. The required findings for a special use permit are consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, effect on a military installation. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. And I'm available for any questions you may have.
Okay, Mr. Stanley has a question.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. And thanks for answering the questions that I asked you online. 2 questions. One is on the notification slide. That might just be the easiest one to look at. Where's the Terrasante property? Probably.
Let's see if I can.
I have this one.
Probably noted in the package and I missed it, but,
Or you can show me and I can mouse it.
or the big chunk.
Where's it at?
So I believe it's related to this and this. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see it on that one, but right
Yeah,
behind.
see
Yeah.
the yellow?
Yeah, no, I've got it there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's anticipated 260 homes and change, or it was at one time?
Yes. So as you can see here, this actually shows the proposed development.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. And then the last question, I'm trying to understand the conditioning or a little bit, because I understand, okay, we are doing a wall, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And because most of the action's underground, we're not too excited about what, the trees? Or how did we, which one, why are we not going to code on the trees, if I understand it correctly?
So we are partially modifying the conditions of approval.
Uh-huh.
So the current modification would be to the north, which is off Callahan Trail Lane.
Right.
They will have to meet all landscaping standards on that northern side. And then that western end, which is located next to a proposed trail.
Right.
Currently, the eastern end is a gravel or road base roadway. And so we were in agreement with modifying the standards to not have to meet the primary landscaping along that east end and south end. However, we would like to still meet the screening adjoining residential uses, which is the wall or fence that should be solid. So chain link fence with slats or that matter.
Thanks. I guess what I'm missing is the why on not having it be to code?
So
What's the hardship, gravel, or is that an access area, or there are 2 sides which do not, if I'm following it right?
two sides
which-
that won't. Yes.
So why?
So there was minimal impacts associated with it. The majority of the homes that are proposed, the majority of areas related to the Terrasante were to the east. We did speak to a property owner who is nearby this that would be directly impacted, which resulted in talking to the applicant to readdress that screening and getting that solid fence back on there to hopefully add additional mitigation.
Okay, thanks. And I'm glad you brought up this. So where are we thinking we really don't need the screening?
So right now, what you see is the blues where the screening will be.
Okay, so you're thinking you don't need the screening near a trailway?
It's going to be screened on the trail.
Yeah, the
The
blue
green
line
is the
is
trail.
the screening.
Okay,
Yes.
To the opposite side of that is where they don't
Okay,
need the screening.
exactly, okay, good. So the gravel you were talking about, is that on the upper piece or the lower piece of the brown block?
Upper piece, and then the roadway to the east is gravel road base type.
So they don't need it there.
And then to the south, there is an existing creek. There are trees, there are shrubs that are located along the south.
So they're only proposing landscaping adjacent to the trail, between the
No,
lift
no, I've
station
got
and the
that part.
trail?
So, thank you, though. The roadway to the right my right in this graphic? Again, what's the reason for no screening there between the facility and the roadway?
If I can jump in really quickly. We often see these requests to modify standards
Sure.
because we understand that there's really not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
We look at a lot of things, and typically the code says if it's commercial or civic, these are the standards. However, there is a provision of code that says you may modify those standards on a case-by-case basis. Really what you look at is, well, what is the intensity, what's the use, what is the impact to the neighbors, and is it justified? Can you concentrate that landscaping where it's more appropriate for a particular project, and maybe remove some trees and bushes and that where it's maybe less appropriate? And that's really what the analysis that Chris did when he was looking at the appropriateness of this modification request. Also taking into consideration that much of the use is going to be underground. It's not going to be very visible at that location. And so I think what he's bringing forward is his best professional recommendation based on this modification. And if you don't agree with that, obviously this is the opportunity to voice that and you could certainly, the decision to modify is up to the board is really what I'm getting at.
Right, thank you. So if I'm coming back to it then, and by the way, the professional recommendation was well heard and underscored, so happy there. What is, in terms of housing, what's on the other side of that road now, and how's it zoned? Maybe we could start with that.
So it is zoned residential. Across that street right now, it is vacant. However, on the northern side, there are proposed homes, and again, on the southern side, along
You mentioned on what appeared to be the southern side, that there was a creek and natural trees, so why mess with that? I'm good on that.
there is, but there's also a homeowner on that southern side that
Okay,
will
but-
likely be
But
impacted.
the one I'm having some problem with is the side that faces the street, and on the other side of the street is residential. Am I hearing that correctly?
To the north, there's residential. To the side, to the east, there is zoned residential.
Okay, so in your professional opinion, what's the downside of doing the screening?
I don't think there is any downsides. It's up to the board if they would like to see screening on all four sides.
In my opinion, you've got three sides covered. It's the side next to the street that is going to have, one would anticipate, if there's 260 homes coming in nearby and there's a big open lot, we can kind of guess how that's going to go, right? So, and it's zoned residential. So screening for that, why wouldn't we do it now? I guess is my question. What's the downside for doing it now?
I don't think there is. I'm open to requiring screening if the board would like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Chris? Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Thomas?
Thank you. Chris, just a point of clarification to follow up with this last conversation. The parcel size is 41.937 acres. We're not talking about screening all that, correct?
Correct.
We're only,
Only
we want to make sure we're all on the same page, that we're only
Yes.
screening the area that is looking basically for the sewer lift station area.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Brad, are you thinking about modifying the conditions?
I am.
Would you like to make a motion?
I think maybe
Or-
we should discuss it
Oh,
amongst
we
the
need to
board.
have public hearing?
The applicant is also available for their presentation.
Pardon me?
The applicant is
Oh,
here
okay.
as well.
Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
All right. My microphone pointed okay? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris did a great presentation, so I will try not to go over information that he had. My name is Karen Downs. I'm with Manhard Consulting, and I'm here representing the applicant, QS LLC, on this sewer lift station. So this is, well, I'm going to go back. We'll see it again in a minute, but this is the site of the sewer lift station itself. Again, the project, Chris went over the project location. So I'll go here to this site. So this, you'll see the picture up in the top corner shows the entire 41.97 acre parcel, as well as the location of the sewer lift station on that parcel. And then the picture to the bottom is the site of the sewer lift station. As you can see, and Chris mentioned before the previous approval history, that pad itself is kind of graded and ready to go. It's the intent of the location of the site, location of that sewer lift station. So here is the zoning and master plan designations, and I know you were asking a minute ago of the adjacent property too. So you can see on here the zoning on this side is suburban residential, or master plan is suburban residential, and the zoning is low-density suburban on this site. And what for you today is the special use permit for the installation of this utility service use on site, along with modified landscape standards, as I heard you were just discussing. And then here's the site plan for the sewer lift station itself. Again, it's the site itself is the 5,244 square feet. It's sized to serve about 264 units for both the proposed approved residential development and then if there's any existing lots on site. The access is from Dale's Lane, and our proposed was for landscaping along the north and west fence line. And our request was for the landscaping there to screen from the trail that's proposed to go along that western boundary. We can talk a little bit more on rationale as well, but the rationale for it is that the visual impacts from this are negligible. The mechanical equipment is all underground. I'm going to go to my next slide for a minute. This is an example of equipment at a similar facility, a similar Washoe County approved facility. It kind of shows the underground of the equipment, and then what is above ground is about 6 feet tall. There's an electrical cabinet and generator on site. Again, this is all behind a fenced area. And as you heard Chris mention, too, there was a proposal for that to be screened as well, like a slatted fence. So I'm going to come back here on the site plan. Again, we talked about the access being from Dale Lane. There's a 20-foot access easement that goes through there. And as he talked about also, it's proposed to be owned and maintained by Washoe County and developed to Washoe County standards. And of course, happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Stanley?
Do you by any chance have a photographic visual of that? I appreciated the photos, by the way. I was wondering if one of them was from the east looking at the facility. And then the second question, well, as long as you got these up, well, okay. As long as you got these up, which of the components, I understand the main action's probably under that concrete slab, the round slab there, but
That's
what
correct. So
what remains?
there's an electrical panel, which my lift station component knowledge is lacking, but there's a generator that looks like
And those stay?
there would be a
Okay.
generator for emergency backup
So there's a
purposes.
pretty good chance we're looking at the green and the blue on the right side. Would that be right? Yeah, that's how I'd pick them.
Yeah, so
So those are
if
less
I
than
can
6
go,
feet.
sorry, I'm going to go to the site plan so you can
Yes,
kind of see can see where it's located on the site. So those, what look like boxes up on the screen now are the emergency generator and electrical panel along that southern boundary of the site.
The photograph was just an example of another one.
Right, I was
Yeah.
just, but it was similar in terms of the facilities required. I just wondered
Right.
which
Correct.
would remain. And do we have just this an excellent piece of work, of course, but there is no photographic view on the east side, is that correct?
So if we're looking at the site, on your left, if I'm going correctly, on your left is Dales Lane.
Okay,
So that's on the east side of the site,
right,
It's looking south.
looking south, correct?
right. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions for the applicant? Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment?
I do have public comment in chambers. I have Nathan Hansen, followed by Cassandra Potts.
Nathan Hansen speaking. In regards to this, they've been mentioned that most of the facility will be underground, but I was also wondering what kind of decibel is going to be admitted throughout the process of the pumping, and then how far is it actually going to have to pump? Is it pumping back towards St. James Village on the south side, or is it pumping towards Montreux to the north, and how often is it going to run? It's going to be screened on two sides. Why isn't it going to be screened around the rest of it with a wall as well, and then landscaping to cover that as well? And then is it going to have any impact on the Browns Creek to the south if, say, something were to happen, floods, anything like that come through? So, is there anything going to be preventive to doing that? I currently own the residence, or we have the residence to the south of it, right there on Dales Lane. And I was mainly concerned about smell and noise issue. I mean, with minimal screening on both sides, and then, what would actually, how often is it going to run? The noise that it's going to produce and eliminate for us and our neighbors and anybody in the area. How often are you going to hear that thing? Is it going to put off a putrid smell when it is pumping? It says in their plan that it won't exceed running 30 minutes per day. Is that going to be on the hour, 2 hours? Is there anything that can be done after that if it is pumping, making more noise than projected or approved? What will be done in the future to take care of that? And also, if it's going to have any effect on the wells or anything for the property as well. And then, yeah, mainly the screening around it, because even though I'd oppose it, it's going to go in regardless. I'm guessing can't stop progression and things like that, which is understood, but. Families own the property for over 30 years, and to have a sewer station come in now and have smell and odor and everything else coming along with it, that just trying to clarify everything that could be done now instead of trying to resolve the issue down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And next I have Cassandra Potts. You don't have to speak if you don't want to. No. Okay. I have no further public comment.
Okay, great. Can the applicant come back and address those questions about the noise and the smell?
Sure. Again, Karen Downs with Manhart Consulting for the record. The noise, the facility itself will be underground and won't be heard. What could be heard above ground is that emergency generator, which obviously would be on a emergency basis, and then would go as quickly as possible back down to the underground facility. The information that is, as well as the smell. So the smell, because the sewer lift station is designed to Washoe County standards, it is pumped, it goes into the facility and then back out. The design is for 20 to 30 minutes, so it doesn't just stay there and stink. It's in and out, back up. One question I heard was to which station. It then is pumped up to the Montrose sewer lift station. So it doesn't stay there to smell. It's designed so that it doesn't stay there or provide smell, as well as it's underground, not above. And then the I'm sorry if there was another question, visual noise. We were proposing, we're in agreement with the condition proposed by staff for the screened slatted fence all around. It wasn't proposed mostly just due to security, to be able, so Washoe County could see what's in there, but we are not, we don't have any concern with a screened fence. Or if there was a condition for additional landscaping, that is also not a concern. It's as proposed, the area has trees, but we can enhance.
I have a question about how is this is a Washoe County thing? It's not a Washoe County, it's the owner is Gateway Company.
So the project itself, correct, the owner is Gateway Company. It would become like with sewer infrastructure that would be designed with any housing. It would, with a development and residential development, it would then be accepted by Washoe County as part of that infrastructure.
Okay.
So eventually,
it's not a Washoe County project.
It's
just-
not a Washoe County
Okay.
project, correct. It's a private project that will be built to Washoe County standards and then will be owned and maintained by Washoe County.
What are the ramifications if it's not approved? If it's not constructed? I mean, it was approved in 2006, right?
Right.
Never
So
constructed and,
it is part of an approved tentative map. It's also part of the Washoe County Master Plan in the forest area plan in this location. So it's been part of Washoe County facilities, part of the plan down there for, gosh, whenever the master plan was adopted, years. I'm going to say since, it anticipated this project at least since 2005. Ramifications, I guess, would be the sewer would have to be redesigned, but it's part of an approved tentative map there. So
okay.
it would need to be
Is it going
redesigned.
to allow for more construction?
Not
more
above
capacity?
the approved tentative map. It's just part of the sewer infrastructure for that approved tentative map.
And that's already been constructed, the parcels in the tentative map?
It's in the process of, it's been approved and it's at Washoe County now for review.
Okay, so it hasn't been constructed?
It's not constructed as
Okay.
what you saw in there. It's not constructed yet,
So this
but
is
it's,
really a requirement for that to be constructed, or otherwise, if this isn't approved, it'd have to be redesigned, so it would be something else. As far as the tentative map condition of approval, you're gonna have sewer service.
the sewer service would need to be redesigned.
Yeah.
Itself, the tentative map is approved. So,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. That answers my questions. Mr. Stanley?
Just to follow along on that, I was following it, I thought pretty well till right at the end.
Sorry.
I don't know how to ask this, but is there sewers currently available?
Is there sewer service currently available? Is that what you said? Yes, I would maybe defer to Trevor on that, or Chris.
Just to the
Best of my knowledge, this is a requirement in order to provide service to the Terrasante development that's been approved. So it's necessary. I'll say this is required in order for them to build or complete construction of the Terrasante development.
So the timeline that Madam Chair was discussing applies, and this would be a requirement for that, but currently, that absent is not a requirement.
That absent, what does that mean?
Yeah,
That
I'm not sure.
means if there is no Terrasante, there's no need for this, is that correct?
That,
Okay.
Yeah, but-
All right, cut
That
to
is
the
my
chase.
understanding.
Just wanted to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. And the last question I think that we have not answered that the gentleman asked is about, is there any kind of specific, is there any kind of specific design consideration for being nearby that creek?
So it's all underground in a vault, like a cement vault. So it's designed to Washoe County standards, and I would guess wherever it would be to ensure that there is no impact to the creek.
All right. And then the last question, I think, is, you mentioned that it runs on an emergency basis. It's been our experience here that emergency generators are tested periodically and made sure that they're still operating and so forth.
Correct.
Do you know anything about that? Sometimes it's 5 minutes a month or something, because the gentleman was asking how much noise and when. Can we address that question?
I would have to look into that. I don't know what the standards are. Again, it would meet the standards for however often it's tested, but I will look at that. I don't know.
Okay, is that it? All right, yes, Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Downs,
Sorry.
just for a point of clarification, you said you are not opposed then to the screening and you are not opposed to the landscape requirements.
That's correct. We can
Thank you.
do that.
Okay, and no public comment, additional public comment? Someone did come in the room. Oh, yes?
So since it hasn't been approved yet,
Sir, if you can go to the microphone, please.
Madam Chair, we've already heard from this speaker in regard to each speaker only gets 3 minutes during public comment,
unless you have questions, I guess.
unless you have specific questions of this.
No, we don't know.
Mr. Large? May he, as we've seen several times, use his compatriots' 3 minutes?
No, you can't designate to someone else.
Sorry. Well, we're aware of your concerns.
I was just wondering that if, since it is up for approval, that is there another location, since they are building on a 40-acre parcel for Terrasante, is there another location possible for proposal for this lift station?
It's a good question, I don't know, but I know this has already been approved, years ago, 10 years ago. So that's probably why they have it there.
Madam Chair?
Yeah?
May I ask a question of our planner?
Yes, but this lady is going to give
Oh,
public
I'm sorry.
comment.
Oh, that's
Sorry, I
okay.
didn't see you walk up.
We're the only house on Dales Lane.
Can you please state your first and last name for the record for public
Yes,
comment?
I'm Cassandra Potts, an owner of the property there also. And we have owned that property since 1977. And my concern is, what is it going to look like? I mean, Dales Lane, there's nothing on it except for us. What is it going to look like when we walk out the door? Are we going to be able to see that? Are they putting something around it as a barrier for our side of it, which would
Yes.
be the southern side? Is it the southern
Yeah.
side? The southern side of that building,
The southern side
whatever
is
it
that
is.
creek?
And then there's a creek that runs right across our road there coming
Yeah.
down.
Yeah,
And so it's, I mean, I can walk to the fence and see it.
well, it's all underground. It's just going to be that concrete pad.
But it's going to have those,
Generator and,
electrical.
electric thing, but that's gonna be
Madam Chair, I would discourage the board from having Q&A with the speakers and public comment.
Okay.
And on the corner of Dales Lane, where it comes off Callahan Ranch Trail is where they want to put it. So it's that close to us.
Thank you.
I have no further public comment.
Okay, Mr. Stanley?
I have two questions for Chris, if you don't mind, Chris. The one is there anything that's special about Browns Creek? Do you know about the design, or it's county standards, but do we know what that is?
I would not know what
No,
that is.
okay.
That's going to be an engineering's
No worries.
wheelhouse.
And then the next one is, what's the distance of their property from the facility? I didn't hear that, I think.
I don't have that measurement on me right now.
It wouldn't show on your maps?
The notification map.
The distance from, I can measure it out real quick if you give me a couple of minutes. If we want to, are we able to put it in recess and I can measure it?
Can you make a guesstimate?
I genuinely don't have a guesstimate.
Any other questions? Yes.
May I ask perhaps the applicant has that information?
Hi, again, Karen Downs for the record. I was hoping if I walked slowly, I used my phone a friend to see the distance in feet. It's approximately 330 feet. I wish there was a way to show my screen here, but anyway, so the distance from the residence to the about the location, the closest point of the lift station to the house is about 330 feet. And I wanted to add too about the reason of this location is because of the elevation. So it allows for the sewage to gravity feed, the flow to gravity feed there, and then the force main up. So it's the elevation as well as where it's been planned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah. Any other questions or? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board, seeing there's no more public comment, and discuss concerns, questions.
Since I was asking most questions, I'll just lead off on this then.
Okay.
If you don't mind. A lot changes, I know, around my house, and we're here to say a lot changes between, what would that be, 12 years, 14 years? A lot changes. So with that in mind, there were some questions raised, and I think probably the easiest solution in my mind is just to do a complete and full screening all sides. And the applicant has been willing to do that, as I understand it. In terms of location, there are laws of gravity that kind of make this work the way it works, and I get that. Washoe County standards, all the health departments and all that have signed off on odors, health, and those sorts of things. So it seems to be the visual and auditory impact and the screening, from what I understand, the Washoe County specs would, if not eliminate, at least highly ameliorate that. And so that's kind of my thought on the thing.
Okay, very good.
Madam Chair, I have a comment.
Yes?
I completely agree with Mr. Stanley on screening this project 360 degrees on all sides, and for a lot of reasons, but what's good for the users of the trail is also good for the users of Dale Lane and Callahan Ranch Road. So I think that would be a cost-effective way to make just about everyone happy,
That would mitigate the scenic impacts,
the scenic and the aural,
the noise.
the noise level.
Scenic noise. Okay, so are you, yes, Mr. Thomas?
Madam Chair, for the record, Clay Thomas, I think one thing we need to consider is that I don't believe within the conditions there is anything about the landscaping. I believe that was an accidental omission from that. And as such, I believe we need to include that
Yes.
within the conditions. So if there is a motion to be made, we might want to ensure that the landscape issue and the screening are included. Thank you.
If we were going to pursue that, might we ask Mr. Lloyd to supply some language that would get that done for us? Not only the physical screening, the block wall, and the vegetation and so forth, types, structure, density, proximity from one tree to another, that sort of thing.
What my recommendation, unless you have a different design idea, is to require that it comply with all landscaping and screening requirements of Article 412.
Article 412,
Correct.
Madam Chair?
yes.
Just while I was doodling up here, I said, kind of as a 1F, that Washoe County, that this WSUP 220011 comply with the Washoe County Code Article 412 and Washoe County Section 110.412.40, the landscape requirements. If that would suffice something of
Would you like to make a motion?
well, that being, if that can be included in
Yeah.
the motion,
Yes.
that would be
Sure.
fine. Okay.
So, go ahead and make a motion and say that.
Madam Chair, for the record, this is Clay Thomas. I'd like to make a motion.
Under duress.
No, not at all. Don't have a problem with this. Let me just get to the right page, and we will,
8 of 9.
okay, thank you. Okay. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained within the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve with the amended conditions, special use permit case number WSUP 22-0011 for QS LLC, with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code 110-810-30, that being consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effects on a military installation.
Are you gonna
With the
add,
condition that it comply with Article 412 of the landscaping standards.
I will read that again. And within that motion, that an item 1F be included that states that WSUP 22-001 comply with the Washoe County Code Article 412 and with Washoe County Code Section 110.412.40 landscape requirements.
Madam
Very
Chair, I second that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item G, which has been continued. So, number 9, chair and board items. Do we have any future agenda items?
I do.
Oh, my goodness.
This is an important one. The next meeting, we will be acknowledging the services of our chair, who is leaving. This is her final meeting, and we're sad to see her go, but she's served the county with distinction, and it's been an honor being up here with you. So,
Thank you.
we will have an agenda item for a resolution of appreciation, and hopefully you can make it back. You don't have to stay through the whole thing.
Oh, I don't?
No.
But you're welcome.
But you are.
I can't wait.
That's
Okay,
all I
thank
have.
you.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure to serve on this board.
We've enjoyed having you here.
Absolutely.
Good, thank you. Do we know who the next chair is, or how's that?
At the next meeting, we'll also have an item in regard to
Okay.
election of a new chair and vice chair.
Okay.
And that would
I'll
be at the
get
beginning
your,
of the
You know, hands raised if you want to do it.
So you may wait or not wait.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any requests for information from staff?
Anything on that ranch one that went back and forth? I forget the name of it. They moved all the dirt and then didn't get approved through us and went to the county.
This is the neighborhood ranch that, the barn, the indoor riding arena. That one, I believe, is still on appeal, and I believe it is scheduled for 6/21.
Seems like it's been changing.
Yeah, it has not yet been heard.
Oh,
It is going back to the Board of County Commissioners, but it has not yet been heard.
I don't know that we have a date yet either.
Silver Circle.
Yeah.
That's the one on Holcomb Ranch.
Yes.
yeah, Holcomb Ranch. That's what I was trying to think of.
Right.
Yes, and I can tell you, I know they've had some events out there since our.
And apparently, they like to advertise on TV as well.
I also saw that.
I thought that was, I always like an optimist.
Huh. Okay, Director and Legal Counsel items. Do we have a report on previous board item of adjustment?
Yes, we do. Thank you for bringing up Silver Circle. We will report on that after it goes back to the county commission. But the county commission did hear the appeal of the Hers Callahan variance that you all heard. That was at 1710 Lakeshore Boulevard. They approved the appeal overturning your decision. Just wanted to pass that along, and that's all I have.
Lakeshore Boulevard in Incline?
Yes.
I don't remember that one.
That was the one that wasn't that the one where Roger went over the three things that had to happen again?
That was the one where they were asking to reduce the side yard setback from 5 feet down to 1 foot.
Oh,
Yeah, and
Right,
it was
and- but they were saying-
it was an older structure, like built in the 50s.
oh, up in Crystal Bay, up in,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And
That-
their hardship, they said, was the
historic,
steepness of the backyard, right?
yeah.
That's right.
Phil Gillenfar?
Yes.
Is he coming back next month for this condo development, you think? That the G, that was,
That is
Continue.
another one of his projects. He
Yeah.
will be coming back, yes.
oh, yeah. Okay. The one that was down by the East Shore.
Right.
That house was, yeah. Okay, good. Can't wait for the construction to start there. Any legal information and updates, Mr. Large?
Nothing from legal at this time.
Okay. Any public comment?
I have no public comment.
Okay. I guess the meeting is adjourned.
You're officially done.
Yay!